Since sacking Graham Potter, things haven't been great for Chelsea. They've gainned 11 points.
No, never noticed.
Yes, they've garnered two victories overall, 14 goals. It's just worse. Just said worst all over that graphic. James Olley joins us, who you're not outside Stamford Bridge, are you, James?
No, I'm in the warm.
Oh, yeah, perfect. He says smugly. What do you want to talk about?
Well, where do you want to start with Chelsea? Is this going to be like a what the hell's going wrong type thing, or do you want to get into the detail, or what? How do you want to do it?
I think the big point is we knew they were going to struggle to score goals considering the signings they made or didn't make in the summer, and everything now is coming to fruition.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think the major issue for Pochettino is that, well, it's twofold, really. The first is that the issues that Chelsea are having are exactly the same as they had under Graham Potter. They were creating chances and they weren't taking them. And I thought it was quite interesting at his press conference today that he referenced the data, because remember that Olley and Barley, the co-owners at Chelsea, they're very data-driven. They rely heavily on their analysts. And if you look at the numbers, you drill down into the detail, their XG is very good. Their XG is nearly 12 this season, but they've only scored 5 goals. Now, that was the same sort of differential that Chelsea had under Graham Potter. So while Pochettino's sort of saying, well, look, it's bad luck. It's, a combination of things. We had a red card at the weekend and, injuries and this, that and the other. You sort of think, well, if your team is constantly underperforming against your XG for that long, maybe it's not just bad luck. Maybe there is more of a systemic problem there. And that's the first thing he's got to address, because it doesn't really look any different to before he came in. The second problem, of course, is that across London, Ange Postecoglou has come in and made quite an immediate impact, radically changed the style of the Tottenham team. And they're winning games, and they've performed very well in 2 high-profile matches, beating Manchester United at home and, of course, drawing at Arsenal at the weekend. So those 2 issues are kind of cranking up the pressure a little bit on Pochettino in the short term. I think everybody accepts that the magnitude of the job that he's taken on is huge. It's probably unprecedented, really, if you think about the scale of the turnover at that club at all levels in the last 12 months or 18 months since the Barley takeover. So he needs time to form a team. But really, with the component parts that he has, Chelsea should be doing better already than they have done.
I mean, Tottenham doing what they're doing and having sold one of the best, arguably the best striker in Europe, certainly in England. Say in England, Erling Haaland, but one of the best in Harry Kane. Does put, as James said, does put a lot of pressure on. But look, the answer is not if you got 2 or 3 bad more results. The answer is not to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. Thomas Tuchel, who had some problems in the end, is not a bad manager. Graham Potter, no matter what people think, some may think it was too big a club, too big a move, but he's not a bad manager. We know that. And neither is Mauricio Pochettino. So the answer, if Chelsea's results continue to be poor on this occasion, is not to sack the manager. I think you're going to have to look a little bit deeper at that. And we know it's been a lot of change in a short space of time. And they don't have, and Nkunku's out injured. Got injured in pre-season playing against Dortmund. They just don't have, and they never look, Chelsea, to me, with the players and the personnel that they've got. Even when they get in those positions, when I'm watching, you think, they're not going to score here. No. Even from great possessions, you see other teams getting through and goal, and you think they're clinical, they've got players that are confident in those positions. Sterling, for example, Modric is raw, we know that. Fernandes really isn't a goal-scoring midfielder. Raheem Sterling improved his stats at Man City, but he's always been a player, certainly when he was younger in the final third, it was a big hit or a miss. And Nico Jackson, it's a new league for him, and he's lacking confidence in front of goal. So you can play all the football you want, but it's all about the final third. We saw that with Burnley at the weekend against Man United. Played some lovely football against Man United, but could still have been played now. It's about what you do in the final third and how you carve teams open. And Chelsea, not just under Pochettino, but under the previous managers, have struggled in that department.
What's the general temperature of the fans at the moment, James?
I think they're broadly supportive. But as I say, I sort of come back to that first point I made, which is that it doesn't look like it's changed that much. And that is probably Pochettino's biggest problem. Look, I mean, I think everybody would accept that, as I say, the magnitude of the task is as such that he needs more time. But I do think it's sort of an underplayed consequence, perhaps unintended consequence of Chelsea's plan to tie all their players down on long-term contracts that it just puts more pressure on the manager. 24 players Chelsea have in their squad are tied to that team until 2027 or later.
Wow.
Those players are not going anywhere. Now, if you take that squad and those facts, and then you take the fact that obviously the executive level has changed, they've brought in these co-sporting directors to sort of take over the day-to-day stuff from Bowley and Egbali, obviously brought in the backroom staff. If things go wrong, if things continue to go wrong in the short term, what's the only thing that you can change easily and cheaply? It's the manager. You know, after all, we talk about these 7, 8, 9-year contracts that they've handed out to the players. Pochettino signed a 2+1 deal. So it's pretty clear who the expendable component part is in this current setup. Now, I'm not advocating for Pochettino to go because I like him as a manager. I think clearly, as I've said already, deserves time to implement his methods. But I just think that by tying all these players to such long-term deals, you've effectively told them that, well, almost independent of your performance, you're staying. You're part of the furniture for the long term. This is a core group that we believe in, who we think can get us back to the summit of English football. There are doubts about whether Pochettino can mould a team out of those component parts. And they're not going to get rid of those component parts if it doesn't work. Now, look at the fixture list. Look at the next 9 games that they have. They have got some really, really tough fixtures coming up. They've got Manchester City, they've got Arsenal, they've got Newcastle away, they've got Manchester United away. There's the full list. You go down that list and you start to think, my God, if they're already in the bottom half of the table, how many points are they going to pick up there going into December? Again, I'm not advocating Pochettino going, but we've seen Chelsea talk about long-term planning, long-term strategy. They did all of that under Potter, and he got sacked after 7 months. If Chelsea are miles off the top 4 or top 5, as it might be for the Champions League qualification this season, come the end of December, beginning of January, when they've got a chance to maybe do 1 or 2 things in the market to perhaps tailor the squad to a new manager, there's going to be a huge test of that long-term planning, the faith in those decisions they've made for Bowley and Egbali to make, if Pochettino can't make some headway in the short term.
James, I just want to continue on James's point. He talked about those 9 fixtures that are coming up, and we spoke about it yesterday, and we add to it today. We asked James and Craig how many points they think that Chelsea will have more when it comes to December the 9th. Craig sitting on the fence, as always.
I said 9 or 10 points.
Well, that is sitting on the fence. Is it 9 or is it 10,
really
Craig?
I don't care, right? Honestly, I don't care.
But you take a look at this, and like even the most optimistic, which is James, 11 points out of a possible 29, it's going to heap more pressure on Chelsea.
And I think we've all been pretty positive because, I mean, the picture James just put there. If you're Pochettino and you listen to what James said there, you're going to be a worried man. I mean, Craig's just gone through the front 4.
But he knew what he was walking into, didn't he?
Yeah, I know, but I'm guessing he's very quickly figuring out that these guys aren't good enough. That front 4 has got no goals in it. And so what's his options? And Nkunku, who you don't know what you're going to get, or Broja, who's, in the Premier League, got every 6 or 7 games he gets a goal. So how's it going to change? And that's why looking at those 9 or 10 points that most of us have said, that has been extremely positive. And obviously it doesn't help when Postecoglou comes in and all of a sudden there's this attacking football that Spurs are playing that Chelsea are not. Now, they're completely different coaches. Pochettino's way more structured.
And so it's never... He's got Maddison and Son.
Right, and so it's never going to really change. How does it change? If you're Pochettino, you're sitting in that office scratching your head trying to figure this out because it doesn't seem an obvious answer.
Well, James Maddison's a good player, but he's not England's starting, attacking midfielder. Right?
But he would make a huge difference to this team.
Yeah, no, I agree. But Heung-min Son did not have a good year last year, so there's some credit to be given there. Look, if they start sitting, it's a big if. When the Bears start rumbling with results, if results don't come and the punters are stamping their feet, James is right. The ownership, when they're under pressure, only look to one person. It's the manager. Now, we could be talking 15 or 16 months into their ownership and there's 3 managers, big-name managers, being sacked. That would make Abramovich look particularly patient.
Right.
But I think one of the problems...
He won.
I think one of the problems is here for Pochettino, if he doesn't turn this ship around, and we mentioned Postecoglou, there are others in the Premier League who are doing more with less.
A lot less.
Postecoglou, De Zerbi, Thomas Frank, Marco Silva and others are all getting better results and have got better results with a much smaller budget and you would consider lesser quality players, right? That's a big job for Pochettino to go in and argue his case if they pick up a bunch of bad results in this game when ownership say, well, how are they getting results? And how are they getting results? And how are they doing it? And why can't we do it? The buck will stop with him. No matter what happens, he is going to have to hope that these players turn up and turn up very soon.
What else is he going to say, James, to people who pay his bills?
I was literally going to say that video should be captioned by, man says boss can talk to his subordinates. I mean, it's, there isn't a lot he can do there. I think what he's trying, the line he's trying to draw is that what he doesn't want is Boehly and Eghbali to come into the dressing room and start laying the law down. I think reading between the lines and sort of speaking to people around Pochettino around the time that he took the job and shortly afterwards, I think the distinction he was trying to make was, look, obviously you own the club. I can't stop you coming in. If you want to come in and press the flesh and, say great goal today and well done and this, that and the other, that's fine. But what they don't want to happen is what happened on more than one occasion last season was when they lost games at home at Stamford Bridge, that the ownership were coming into the dressing room and kind of saying, look, this isn't good enough, effectively undermining the manager and saying, look, if someone's going to give these guys a dressing down, it's not actually the manager that's going to do it, it's the ownership that's doing it. And if you do that, and obviously the guys in the studio will know better than me having played the game, but I think you start to erode the manager's authority a little bit there. And I think what Pochettino's trying to keep is that dressing room as sacrosanct as he can, while saying to his owners, who clearly like to go and see their players at full time of home games, yes, you can come in, but don't effectively try and take over the management role that I wanted to keep as my own.
Do they do that? And I'm not sure if they do that here in the baseball and the big American sports, whether the ownership come in. Because it is different, different country, different ways of doing it. It's certainly not really something that's... It's not something that we would consider the norm. I mean, back in the days, Ken Bates used to come in the dressing room now and again, but it was usually for some sort of sarky comment or something. But the boys used to just sort of wash it away for what it was.
Did the Crafts come in, Stevie, when you were at the Revs?
Occasionally, but it depends on the professionalism of the owners.
Okay.
Any proper businessman or professional person wouldn't dream of coming into a dressing room, whether it's baseball, football, whatever you want, and start thinking they can tell you or anybody in that dressing room what to do. So it comes down to that. And if you, as the coach, get a sniff that there's any of that, you better, within a second, do something about it. Because
but what do you do when they're the guy that's paying your bills? They're paying your wages.
If they do that, then 100%, you politely ask them to can I have a word with you outside, and you tell them.
Is it a severe Malky?
But it's probably the biggest disrespect that an owner or director of football, whoever it is, can actually do to the manager. Right. It's the worst thing he could do. But not everybody's professional, but as I said, if you smell it or you hear it or you think it's going to happen, then you need to have the stomach to very quickly ask them to have a word and tell them very directly, regardless of whether they've got $1 billion in the bank or not, that inside here, I'm in charge here.
It's almost a distrust of your coaches, your hire. Snooping about is almost like trying to engage what's going on rather than trusting in the process that you've hired the guy. And to give a manager the biggest chance with the playing staff is to stay out the way and let him do his job. It's not to come down in any way, shape or form and give the players anything to talk about. That's the most important thing. You don't want to give the players anything to talk about the manager, about the ownership. If they stay out the way, do what they do, and the manager's allowed to get on with what he does, then that's fine. They can still make decisions from up above in boardrooms and blah, blah, blah. I think continually coming down is not good for Mauricio Pochettino or any other manager walking in the dressing room, because it gets the players talking. And of course, all these things are not really a story if you're getting results. But as we know, Chelsea, since this ownership have taken over, have not really been showing any consistency whatsoever. So, yeah, I think long-term for me, they need to just stay out of the way, trust the people that they've hired to do the job and the coaches, and let them get on with it. It's a tough enough job without people coming down and getting in the way.
James, you there tomorrow for the Brighton game?
No, it's Olley. I've been jocked off it, so he's there.
Wow. Wow.
Exactly. We're sending misery guts.
One more question. Is that a golden horse behind you?
Yeah, it is, yeah. What's the problem?